Welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. I'm David Holder, and I'm joined today by Warren and Easton Holder. And today we're going to piss somebody off, which is normal. So I'm going to do what I normally do, and that is apologize, because I truly apologize for whatever they might do.
Yeah, this one, though, he's going to be apologizing for himself.
No, I'm not going to apologize.
You're going to piss plenty of people off.
I know, but I'm not apologizing for it because it's what I believe.
So what are you speaking for us then,
because you guys usually do stuff like drop the F-bomb or something like that. That is out of character.
We are saints.
I've never said the F-bomb.
We are very innocent children.
Whatever.
Not once.
Cussing isn't even in our language. It's not in our dictionary, man.
What?
I never said the F-bomb.
Okay. All right.
That
so
fucking outrageous.
That's going to be a perfect meh.
So today what we're going to talk a little bit about is some ethics, and this is a touchy subject. Probably, I don't even know if it's second to broadhead discussions, but how far should you shoot something ethically with a bow and arrow? I guess you could have that same conversation with a rifle, but it doesn't. We're not as knowledgeable on the rifle side, so we're going to stick to what we know, which we know bows. So,
well, hold on.
We try to know
real
bows.
quick. We got to give you guys a shout out. So I asked you guys last week to please leave us reviews, and you came in clutch. So we appreciate you guys. So we'll start with Apple people, because the Apple people had been lazy, but this week they were not. So we really appreciate you. HTFD32, did we answer his email? You sent us the email, and we appreciate it, but we need your address, brother. So please send me your address. So
oh, yeah, he said I won something.
Yes, so we can send you what you won. As far as for everybody else, Steve Ramstrom says, I love it when Ramstrom. I love it when a podcast is easy to listen to, grabs your attention to the point where I feel like I'm sitting at the table with you guys and touches on the topics you want to hear about. I don't get a lot of outside information that's useful, so when I listen to you guys, I tend to take it more so as advice than just entertainment. I use this as a guide, and I really appreciate it. Some things you may not want to do that with, brother, but we appreciate it. MBadger21, truly enjoy listening to these fellas and watching all of the adventures they are putting work into. Awesome to see. Keep grinding, fellas. Appreciate you, brother. Jake Zetz, he brought up the awesome topic the other day. Said, always excited for my drive home from work every Tuesday. Makes the hour commute go by fast. Always wanted to try a rub tree, but never tried it. Is there any previous videos or discussions on going forward with one, or is it as easy as getting a fresh branch in the ground once they start losing their velvet? Thanks, guys. We will. There is some videos
one
on that.
Way back, but I don't know what number it is.
Yeah, we'll do more on that later. We'll do a podcast on it. Clemson Whitetail, best part of my week. Appreciate you, brother. Awesome podcast by OPYVRSH_LE with slashes, Y with slashes. I didn't even know you could do that. Comma DRC2 ;57.
That
the
is
crew at
definitely
Raised Hunting
automatic.
has great hunting tips and insight all year round. Appreciate you, Opravish EYDRC2 ;57.
That was abbreviated.
You couldn't do that. And then our YouTube guys. We had a lot of you last week, so we really appreciate you. William Ayers SP4TT, Brian Sheffield 7037, Mark Hall 1169, Eric Boards 1209, Curtis Miriam 9956. Devin Yoder, 5631. Always appreciate Devin. He was on the last couple, I think.
Oh.
Jake DeLee, the Rupsick Boys. Jake DeLee again. Northern Hillbilly Adventures. Eric S007. We always love his name. Mark Hall, 1169. Appreciate all of you guys. We see your comments on here. We will get back to you on some of them, but we're short on time today, so we're going to dive in.
Hey, Spotify,
to
we
the
say
topic
thanks
here.
too.
Yeah, Spotify, you guys are good too.
Chase Knowles and Quentin Spack both have texted me asking how to write a review when it's not possible on Spotify. So you're not alone. But thank you for going out of your way to make sure that you had the opportunity to write us a review.
Absolutely.
They said they left us stars instead. That's all they could do.
there you go.
Okay.
Well, that would sound like a lot. So thank you
was a
guys.
lot.
You guys follow directions way better than anyone around here. So good work.
Yourself included.
You turd. That's what I was going to say.
Could you read the exact or state it exactly as it was said?
I had to have Dad read it because I don't have the contact to Raised Hunting on my phone.
It was basically all that time getting all those ready. And
Okay, so here's what Gary Dunda, Dunda,
From down Dunda.
wrote in, and he said, long-range hunting with archery equipment concerning the ethics, and who declines those
Declares.
who defines those
Oh,
ethics. That's it. That was his question.
very simple and to the point.
Yep.
You know who defines those ethics? I do. You listen to me. No, I'm kidding.
You do, meaning
Yes, but I am correct in that. It is
it
personal.
it comes down to yourself.
We hammer this at camp, and the term for it is, what is your effective range?
Yep.
Each person could have a different effective range, and it's okay if your effective range is less than the person next to you. But I will say that the wrench that gets thrown into that, I think that there is a max effective range, whether you're good past it or not. And in my
Meaning whether you're good past it as far as shooting a target.
Yep.
You know, whether you can accurately hit a target at a certain distance doesn't necessarily mean that you should be hunting at that distance.
I could comfortably say that my effective range on a target, and when I'm shooting, like me and Warren are going to do 3D shoots or whatever, is if I'm going to go off of a statistic where I know that I'm going to hit something of vitals every time, is probably anywhere from 50 to like 60 yards, maybe a little bit further. We'll shoot further than that. His is probably effective range would be like 100 yards, because every time he's hitting in an area like that.
Okay,
So
but I think
that's with a target.
that right there you just started the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he asked the question, who defines? My question is, what defines? And Easton, for those of you that can't see, because Easton was describing with his hands the vital area, roughly, of a deer, I guess you would say. What is it that determines whether your effective range? What is that measurement? And is it a 6-inch circle? Is it an 8-inch circle? Is it a square? What is it that says, okay, I feel confident in here, within this range? And that's why I say it's going to come down to you specific, meaning each person making that judgment call. But I definitely think that there's something that should be added to that.
is there an issue with that, though?
Absolutely.
Okay, I agree.
Because
I have a baseline for that.
I think the problem that I have here is right now, yes, the only person that really does get to dictate how far they should be shooting is the individual. The ethic portion is the problem where there's room for
Ethics is never
it to
one
be
way
bent.
or another.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always variables.
Well, and so the argument I always see on long range, on people shooting long range, is nobody can tell somebody what their skill set is, or if they're capable of making that shot. Only you know if you can make that shot or not. And I don't agree with that either. I think that's 100% wrong. I think you're absolutely false. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Cameron Haynes. Come at me. I don't care if you are an Olympic archer. I think nobody in the entire outdoor space whatsoever has any business shooting at animals 100-plus yards. Anyone.
At all.
Not a single person.
Okay, so you're going to have to explain why.
Because once you get to that range, it's not about how well you can shoot.
You can
It's
shoot
about
perfect.
how much the animal can move and the time that animal has to move. So it doesn't matter if you know where you're going to hit. Doesn't matter if you hit right where you want. If an elk can move 18 inches before your arrow ever gets there, there's an issue with that. And then you have all these people saying that, well, you know, when they're further away, you get less reaction because they can't hear it as well. Okay, I have a hard time agreeing with that, because if you look up the speed of sound and the speed of your arrow, the sound of your bow going off or them hearing anything at 100 yards, and you have to take into consideration how well they hear an elk, a deer, something that is prey, they are going to hear that well before your arrow gets there, and the chances that they're going to react is very, very good. I've never seen an animal that hears something that spooks them to some extent and they just go. They don't do that. Their first reaction is, oh shit.
So my thing though is, I agree, but also I think that it's a matter of as bow hunters, at some point or another, you have to at least be willing to look at the fact that we're bow hunting. That's a challenge in itself. And there's more room for error, or there's not more room for it, but there's more chance of error when it comes to bow hunting versus other types of hunting.
Like a scoped rifle.
Yes, generally speaking. So with that being said, everything you do, everything I set myself up for is trying to set myself up for success. So setting stands, I'm trying to set them where I'm going to have a shot close enough, or I'm going to wait till I have that right angle on a shot. Or if I'm spotting and stalking or something, just because I can't get the shot to the distance I want doesn't mean I'm going to shoot further. So my point with that is that I'm going to take the time or the failures or whatever else it takes to make sure that I'm shooting within a certain distance, because if I'm not doing that, no matter how good of a shot I am, the moment you go past your 60, 70, 80 yard, these long distances, you're now adding tons and tons and tons of variables that doesn't even affect you. You have variables of maybe it's a little windy. You have variables if the animal is going to move. If the animal is simply going to bite, like he's eating something, and he takes a half a step to go freaking take another bite, by the time your arrow gets there, Warren says 18 inches for an elk, that's your average step.
That's only half.
Half
so
of one?
the average stride of an elk is 28 inches.
So
I've
that's not
researched
even a freaking full, them literally grazing.
Correct.
Imagine them grazing. That's when they're going to be the calmest. Mm-hmm. They're grazing, and they take one step, and right there, the animal's big enough that you're looking at 28 inches. I mean, even if you looked at it as a foot, that's a significant amount of error or change there. So the point is, for me, is everything I'm doing is setting something up for success. When I start adding in variables that I flat out can't control or even predict, there's a difference if I can predict it, know that it's coming or something is going to happen. But when I have no idea, all you're doing is saying, here, I can shoot this and hope that I don't freaking shoot him in the butt or the head or wherever else that it might end up. How is that right?
Well, on an elk, too, if an elk is facing to the right, okay, and you put your arrow right behind that shoulder, and let's just say you shot that far, yes. Well, no. Let's go the other way. He's facing left, okay? And he's going to take one step. Shit, I'm still off.
What are you trying to do?
I'm trying to think of if your arrow went in front of him, which I guess that doesn't make sense because he'd have to step backwards. So
yeah,
that wouldn't make sense unless he was going to wheel or something. So, but from right behind the shoulder, let's say that you were going to be the most center of where you want to hit that you could be. 28 inches, is that? I'm trying to think, where would that be on elk? You're definitely not in lungs anymore.
You're the center of the guts.
You're not behind the guts.
Like
you're probably
right
maybe
in front of the
hind
front
quarter. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you got a full step, half a step in these guts, 14 inches, I would say, just rough. I mean,
and that's saying you're not off.
That's saying
you're.
That's saying that you're 100%
accurate
yep. with what you're shooting. And if someone's questioning the numbers, I can tell you, I measured this myself on a couple mounted elk when I was really trying to figure out what is going to be my effective range. So I took that upon myself when I was hunting elk to say, okay, how far do I think that I can do this? And so I measured a bunch of mounted elk to see. And what I came up with was an average, that they're about 16 to 18 inches wide. Their vitals run from 6 to 8 inches below the spine down to 4 inches above the belly line, which gives you a rough area of about 16 inches up and down.
You're going to have to give that a plus or minus as well.
Absolutely.
We're looking at taxidermy work.
It could be slightly off, and there's no guarantee in an elk. Yeah, it's a pretty big number. I mean, people will say the bigger the animal, the bigger the vital area. That's true. But also, you won't find any professional archer that will tell you that, well, if it's a bigger target area, then you got way more room to have error.
No,
they're still trying to find one single spot. It comes back to, I think, I don't remember what movie it was that made the Patriot. The Patriot, aim small, miss small, and we do that with the kids at camp when we teach them. If you aim at the dot, I use a hat, and I take the little button that's on top of most hats, and I tell them, if you aim at that and you miss it by an inch, okay, you missed it by an inch, but you're still in the baseball cap. But if you were aiming at the cap itself and you missed by an inch, now you're off the hat. So keep in mind, that's just an easy way to understand aiming at that having a reference. And the bigger the target, the more difficult it gets to pick a spot within that.
Oh, yeah, your pin at 100 yards even on an elk is going to go from being, where it easily fits inside the heart area or the lung area at 40 and under to taking up the whole
shoulder
lung area.
Or the whole yes.
So my question would be this, though. Of the guys that are flinging arrows way out there, 80, 90, 100-plus yards, how many of them do you think truly believe I can make this shot and I know I can make this shot, or I have a chance at making this shot?
Or there's good probability.
I would. I don't
think a lot of them are probably arrogant enough to say that they're going to make the shot.
You think so?
They just don't have any self-awareness.
I don't know that it's. I think there's maybe. I have to think about it more, but I feel like there's 3 categories there. There's the guy who feels like because he's done it on a range, he can make that shot.
Which, not to interrupt you, but let's start right there real quick. The amount of guys that can go into a situation cold, not shooting 40 arrows first, and be in a different environment with their hunting clothes and possibly shooting across a canyon or any other thing that can hit exactly where they want to aim, or exactly where they want to hit at 80, 90, 100 yards is less than 1%. For sure. And if you go to a TAC event and you see the amount of arrows that those jokers got with them, watch them shoot through the range and you'll know everything you need to know.
Okay,
we've been giving Warren a lot of crap lately because he pulls these numbers so far out of his freaking butt that we don't associate with him when he comes to his statistics.
I guarantee it's 1%. I
See,
guarantee.
Like this behind me. We don't associate
we don't. But okay, I'm not worried about the percentage. What I'm saying is there are guys out there that I have seen shoot. I don't want to use names, but I will use a name that because I've seen him shoot, and he does. And I don't know whether he did it on the first arrow. The times that I have seen him shoot is Cameron Haynes. I've seen him make a 100-yard shot over and over
on YouTube
on practice. Yeah. Okay, I've never seen it live, so I know
as well as anybody. You cut that all day long.
He's a good shot, though.
Yep. So I have no idea, but he's not the only one. I mean, there are other people that are making a 100-yard shot in practice, and I believe that they go
like
in.
A Levi Morgan could probably make that shot every single time.
Okay, and they go into the woods confident that they can make that shot. Then I think there's the guy that practices out to 100 yards, but he's not intending.
Pause. We're also not saying people like Levi Morgan or whoever else. We're using names that we think you guys may know, but we're not saying that they're out there shooting hundreds of yards.
No, I'm not saying that.
Because I think if you watch some of Levi's stuff, I think his is actually, he's got 40 or 50 yard something, I thought, but maybe I'm wrong. But we don't know their stuff. We just know they're good shots.
Right.
Anyways, carry on.
So my point is there is a group of guys, whatever that percentage is, or gals, that confident that can make a shot at 100 yards on a target as often as I can make a shot at 20 yards. Let's just say that. They're proficient at 100 yards on a target range. Then there's another group that I would say that shoots 100 yards, probably not as proficient, but they feel fairly confident that they can do it 6 out of 10 times, 8 out of 10 times, or something that they feel. And then there's some people out there that just know, well, I'll hold high and, oh, look, I hit the target. I think if you divide into 3 categories like that, it kind of brings you to where the question was in what is going through their mind when they decide to take and I don't know that 100 yards, there isn't a yardage. I think it goes back to what you said, Easton, and that's your effective range. I think that starts 1 yard past that. And what I mean by that is if your effective range is 40 yards or 30 yards, 31 yards is too far. 41 yards is too far. And because otherwise, what ends up happening is there is no limit. So if 100 yards is your limit, is 101 okay? Is 102 okay? And so when someone just gets to the point where they're like, if you're telling yourself, I'm not going to get another chance, I have to release an arrow, then you just made a bad ethical decision, in my opinion.
Yeah, it
You
shouldn't
shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be shooting in the first place. You should only be taking the shots you are stacked
Absolutely,
in your favor.
you feel like everything in you tells you my practice, my situation, the animal, everything is in my favor that says I feel like I can make this shot and that this shot will go where it's supposed to and the animal should be in the same place and everything taken into account.
I will say this. We have come up with something for this that you guys are not thinking of at all. And that is, I don't know very many other places that do this, or I've found one because I haven't found one, and hence the reason we made one. We made a target for this purpose. It's not a full target. It's called the Raised Hunting Focus Target, but it is a vinyl sheet. And the whole point of this is that, number one, it takes away distraction. So it's one dot on a blank sheet. You can put on any target. And I have 3 sizes in there for practice purposes for exactly what we're talking about. There is a 20-yard dot, a 30-yard dot, and a 40-yard dot. For me, when I go practice with that, at the 2-inch dot or whatever I have at 20 yards, I'm hitting that every time. That is my goal. At 20 yards, I should be able to smoke it. No issue. 30 yards is like a 3-inch dot. Same thing. I should be able to hit that just about every time. And then when I get to 40 yards, it's a 4-inch dot. And I assume that if I wanted to put my effective range at 40 yards, I would take the amount of, like, what I think like a deer. I mean, it's a 4-inch dot on that focus target. But a deer's lungs, in all reality, I mean, that's quite a bit bigger than 4 inches.
Right.
I mean, that's probably on the small side even. So as long as I can put in, I'm looking for 8 or 9 out of 10 arrows in that 40-yard target in the dot, I already know I'm way past what I need to be doing as far as efficiency. So that right there, to me, is huge for new people that don't know. How would I even know what my effective range is? When I go out to find my effective range, you're never going to be able to be 100%. It's a bow, and you're a human. You're going to have errors. So I'm always looking for whatever my yardage is there is like 8 or 9 out of 10. So it's 80 or 90% of the time, if not more, I'm making that shot no matter what. So I have guarantees. So that's how I've come up with, like, 40 yards is, I feel that comfortable past 40 yards, but I'm not going to take a shot past 40 yards because there's too many variables when it gets to the animal at that point. So if you're looking to find a way to be able to do that, right there is a great representation.
And you could do that. You can make that yourself
Yeah.
on a target. But I think what the point that needs to be is, I've heard a lot of people that talk about a pie plate,
Yeah.
a paper plate, because it roughly is the size of a whitetail deer's vital zone. And if you're just trying to put your arrows within that, I don't think that that's going to give you a very good effective range, because if you do what Easton just said, you got 8 out of 10 in there. Well, those other 2 arrows then are out of the effective range. And I personally wouldn't hunt if I felt, and I can tell you that I ran into that. I tried to hunt with a recurve for a while, and I pulled out a recurve, and at 15 yards, I could put 10 out of 10 arrows in roughly a tennis ball at 15 yards. When I went to 20 yards, I couldn't do it. It was like 8 out of 10. But my 2 that were off would be off by 6 or 8 inches. And I struggled and tried, and I felt like I could have, if I was going to effectively hunt with that, I would have had to keep my distance at 15 yards. That's my personal, again, this is up to you. Each of you get to make this decision yourself. And that's where I would have had to stay. And I didn't feel like that I didn't feel like that I could comfortably always get within 15 yards. I wanted to be 20 yards and under. And so I said I wouldn't do it. I went back to a compound bow where I knew I could put all my arrows at 20 yards within that effective range. And so that's what I did. I ended up not using that. So anyhow, it becomes something that, again, you have to make it. There isn't nobody, and probably I think we are sitting here, and the argument that we just opened is going to be massive. And
it already is. I mean, we haven't opened this.
Right.
This is a
debate going on all over. And I know lots of guys. I'm friends with guys that shoot a long ways, and go for it. That's up to you. You got to live with what you decide, and you got to do it your way. I personally won't do it. And so
I think too, the thing that people need to remember is the issue you have is you see all the ones that worked. The one shot at 100 where it landed where it was supposed to. what people don't get to see, especially the younger kids that are watching these videos, is the 6, 7, 8 they hit before one arrow landed where it was supposed to. And they just keep shooting or completely missing. That's the portion that people have to keep in mind, is they're not showing you all of the other ones.
See, I'd love to know what is the percentage of, I think we talked about this on another podcast one time where we touched on this. I would love to know what's the effective shot, meaning you're in that. Is it 90% at 20 yards? Is it 80% at 30 yards? Is it 70% at 40 yards? Or because I believe that mathematically, as you go farther and farther, there's more room for error, not by you, but by the animal and by the topography or whatever the wind and all
variables.
Uncontrolled variables, exactly. And so I believe that making the shot is less effective, meaning percentage-wise, it would go down. I'm not going to do what you do and give it a percentage. I'm just not going to do that. But what I'm saying is it would be less than what it would be at a closer range.
Okay, well, thanks then, because now you got us. Everybody knew that.
No, but I don't know that. I mean, I'd love to have someone who has shot 100 yards at an animal, and tell me if they'll be honest with me. Have they been 100% or have they been 90%? And then when they were shooting closer, is that more effective or less effective or the same?
Okay. All I know is what I'm saying is, like a Levi Morgan, can he shoot 100 yards and be effective? Yeah, probably. But I'm not worried about what Levi can do because that's not the issue that's at hand. The problem is how much the animal can move. And now we're saying, so Levi, we can easily say Levi is in the top 1% because he is the top 1.
Yeah,
okay. And
good job. We used a factual representation of a percentage.
Well,
here.
so if we're gonna go top 1% right now, and Levi is one of the only people up there, let's put Cameron Haynes with him, which I would imagine if those two went and shot together, Levi's probably gonna crush him. But let's just
you're just asking for it.
I don't know why.
Oh, I'd pay for that.
I'd pay. Shoot.
Levi, dude, there's no one that's even close to Levi. I don't know why you would think that Cameron Haynes all of a sudden would be able to go and beat him.
Okay.
I don't know.
Hey, Cameron, if you are listening to this, let us know. I highly doubt you are, but let us know if you want to go on a podcast because this would be interesting. I'm not in the same belief of him, but...
Well, he's not a competitive shooter either, but I still think Levi would beat him because there's nobody else in the world that can beat Levi, so I don't think Cameron Haynes can beat him.
He hasn't won in a hot minute, dude. Multiple people have beat him.
He has the most world championships of anybody that's ever shot, so he's probably going to beat anyone else. Yeah. Right. So he's one of the, so we've got an extremely small portion of people that can even be shooting in that range, and then the problem is the 2 arrows that you're talking about, which probably becomes, meaning the 2 of the 10 that are flyers at that range, probably becomes more like 4, 5, 6. What happens when your flyer is 20-some inches now because it's 100 yards and they don't move and you hit them in the neck or the head or anything else? I just think there's so many factors at that range until your feet per second is that much faster that there's really no excuse for shooting that distance. And I'd love to be able to get a biologist or somebody that can tell us scientifically deer's reaction time is this, elk reaction time is this, they can move this amount of they hear this well, which means that they're going to be able to pick it up in this time and do all of the science to it and really figure out what your odds are, because I think there would be a mathematical equation that would get you to a yardage for your feet per second that with your shooting ability, if you made an average of, okay, I can hit 10 arrows within a 4-inch circle every single time at 40 yards, and my bow speed is 297 feet per second, that if I missed by my most variable, which is 4 inches, at this yardage, and an animal has X amount of time to react, I'm still in the kill zone.
You come up with an equation for it.
Yes, and then you'd be able to plug in your numbers and your shooting ability, and you'd be able to see how far you can effectively shoot.
Here's what it comes down to me, though, when you get past the skill level and everything else, is bow hunting is supposed to be a challenge. Hunting in general is a challenge, but bow hunting is its own challenge. Part of the challenge with bow hunting is the fact that you have to get closer. and you have to be able to make that shot and get within the distance to where animal doesn't know you're there. So when you get to the point of having to make shots at 100 yards or 80 yards or whatever it is, and you go out west and that's the only way to do it because it's so wide open and everything, is BS. Because in all reality, if it comes down to it, it is bow hunting. If you are not being able to get closer to an animal than 100 yards, you either need to hang your bow up and pick up a different hobby or become a better hunter, because it's your fault that you can't get close enough to shoot them ethically.
Well, I think a lot of the people that start doing that, they don't even give themselves the opportunity for the animal to get close.
Or to see if they can get closer.
Or like it's
Or
animals
waiting
at
for the
60
right
and they're
angle.
just like, okay, here we go. And even though he was going to come another 20, 30 yards closer, you just didn't give him enough time.
Yeah, this is good enough.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to go on with what you said, Easton, I think, because that's where I was headed, was not only is archery is the reason I got into archery, and I can, again, I'm just using my personal opinion or my personal belief. I got into archery hunting because it was so different from gun hunting. I mean, I started gun hunting, and then when I found archery and you had to get close, especially to make a good shot, I was like, I got to get really close. I was hearing things and seeing things that I never saw or heard when I was gun hunting. And I had experiences that were just, in my opinion, a lot of times where no shot was ever taken. That is what the essence of bow hunting was all about. It was not for me, it still is not for me, just about killing an animal and seeing how many I can kill or how big a one I can kill. I definitely don't think that archery should be something that someone should be standing on it. Look at how far I killed this animal at. Because one of the things is, if we keep doing that, then we're going to eventually get the attention of a state, that the state is going to say, what the heck do we need to have a special season for these guys with bows and
They're
arrows?
shooting as far
They're
as a
shooting as
shotgun.
far as a shotgun does now. So why do we even need an archery season? Let's just stick them all together. And we don't want to see that. I mean, the whole reason that, because, and even some of the states still listed as, it's a primitive weapon season.
It ain't much of a primitive weapon.
If we're able to do something what is being capable of what they couldn't do 100 years ago or 50 years ago with a gun, that now a guy's doing it with a bow and arrow, I mean, I don't want to go down that road. I don't want to lose the opportunity that we have, that the states have given us.
Plenty of arguments though on a compound ain't a primitive weapon.
Absolutely, and I agree, and I have to say that it's primitive, but it's not as primitive. It's not the real deal as far as these guys that are shooting traditional archery. But it's one of those
things. Killing
things.
Stuff with a recurve consistently, you're badass. Like, I don't care. I don't care if you're shooting spikes, dude.
Yeah.
You are a badass.
Yeah,
because it's freaking hard.
It is hard. It's very hard. So, but anyhow, I just think that we need to keep that in mind as well, that there is a side to it that could turn around and bite everyone in the rear end. And I've heard that discussion come from states when I've been in some of the meetings and listened to these guys, and they're like, what's the point? Especially the one that you hear more is muzzleloaders. Muzzleloaders started off with like cap and ball, and 50 yards was a long ways, and now they're shooting 500 yards accurately, more accurately than many rifles. So and the reason that I'm not saying we're not here to debate that, I'm just saying that that's another primitive weapon season that's been given to someone for a reason. And so you just have to be careful where you go.
I agree.
So
I think that's going to have us plenty more topics for next week
Mm-hmm.
to talk about.
Yep, probably. At the end of the day, it is all just an opinion. So it's, you can only take it so far.
I say we get into your wacky facts, but I also do have a question. This is totally random, thinking about the traditional. Has anybody tried, like we all, or me and you both have recurves. Has anybody tried putting, I know the recurve guys will get really mad at me for this, but has anybody put like a D-loop on it, maybe a little, like just something to help support the rest a little bit better, to where you could maybe use like a release at least, to where you're still using something that is, you got to be better with, but you have a better releasing mechanism. You're not going full bore compound, all kinds of cam systems and everything else, but you're helping yourself be a little more consistent. Has anybody tried that with a recurve?
I'm sure someone. I mean, I know guys, and I did it for a while. I shot my compound with fingers.
Yeah, but I'm
thinking, and no sights.
That's not that. I'm talking the other way though. I'm talking.
I know you're saying that a recurve guy. I think that they're going to argue with you. The whole purpose of it is it's traditional archery. And traditional archery would not include a D-loop or include a releasing device.
There's all kinds of traditional things, though, that people have just put on roids.
Wooden arrows
This might be my next project. I might make a recurve on steroids. YouTube video coming up. If I could get it to shoot decent, that would be freaking slick.
I don't know.
There's some people that use they make a sight for recurves.
I know they do that, but I'm just thinking in the fact that like one of the massive things about a compound is you're let off.
Yeah,
I mean, you're holding anywhere from 5 to maybe 10 pounds at most when you're at full draw. So if you take that away, number one, it's going to make it a lot harder. Number two, you don't have any forgiveness with multiple strings, cables, axle to axle, any of your statistics and specs on it. You could at least give yourself a little bit of an upper hand. I'm going to try it. I'm going to freaking try it.
I don't know what
I
to
might
tell you.
launch some arrows to begin with, but I'm going to try it. Yeah.
All
You
right.
go for it.
You ready?
All right. Apparently he's ready with the wacky facts.
It would take 19 minutes to fall to the center of the earth.
Wait, Oh.
From here.
Yeah.
You should add on to that.
That's all it says.
Do you know the theory on that one?
That you'd end up in China.
No, you idiot. That was a dad joke.
That's a question.
No.
Yeah.
If
you dig
By the way, Joey, there's Warren's green.
if you dig a hole right here, if you just started digging right now
You'll end up in China.
Yeah.
and you came out in China,
Or you would eventually.
would you come out on your head or on your feet?
Probably on your feet.
No, on your head.
Well, if you come out on
it just depends on which way you go in.
No.
If you go into the hole head first, you're coming out head
No,
first.
here my theory debunks it.
Don't Nick,
listen.
don't act like I'm stupid because you can't do that
He's
anyways.
mad about what I'm about
You
to
would-
say. Okay, if you drilled a hole through the entire center of the earth and you wanted to go thump and drop down to China, do you know where you'd end up?
Obviously not.
You would never end up
You'd
anywhere. You'd end up
incinerate.
right in this. No, if you take the heat and everything, you'd end up right in the center of the earth and you wouldn't be able to go anywhere because you have two gravitational from both sides that you'd never be able to get back one way or another unless you got yourself a rope. Yeah.
That's so stupid.
I don't think anybody's ever tried that one, but it's a theory.
The longest English word is 189,819 letters long.
How's it even a
What?
word?
I guarantee you a lawyer came up with that word.
Yeah,
For sure.
I agree with that.
Say that one more time. How many?
189,000.
The longest English word is 189,819 letters long.
I don't
So
even
it's got to
know how
use
do
the
it.
alphabet like what, 100 times or 200 times?
A lot more than that.
More than that.
It's only 27 letters.
Yeah.
Or you have combinations
27, right?
of
Or
letters.
28? 28 letters. It's 27. I was right? Yeah, it's 27. Dad.
My-
Freaking Lamb
but-
Curry.
27 times 200 was that what you said? You're only
But you got to think of letter
like-
combinations, right?
It's 26. It's 26 letters. We're all idiots.
I actually thought it was 26.
So you
and
didn't
then
say
you guys,
it.
yeah, I didn't because then you guys
180.
said 27, 28. I was like, wow, I'm not even close. I thought it was 26.
That's 6,957 times that it would be using the alphabet.
That's
100 or
crazy.
200. It ain't even a word. It's
Yeah,
BS.
that's stupid.
Oh, here's another one for you. A fear of long words. It is a word.
I don't care.
It's a fact.
stupid.
A fear of long words is called hippotomonostrosic
Get a different phobia.
Look at all those. What?
I said get a different phobia.
No number before 1,000 contains the letter A.
Do you want to keep
There were
going
active
right now?
volcanoes on the moon when dinosaurs were alive.
What do you think all the holes are? Pause. You should stop.
I'm evening it out.
Going 1 for 3 on the day. All right.
The first one was good.
It was.
19 minutes is a long free fall.
The Pope can't be an
Golly.
organ donor because he's selfish.
What?
That's actually a thing, I think, isn't it?
It says the Pope can't be an organ donor. I don't know about the selfish
I was
part.
gonna
I was
say-
just saying he's
No, the
selfish.
Pope can't be a donor, though. Is that actually in there?
Yeah, it says he can't be. I don't know why.
Jesus called home his organs.
The world's longest concert lasted 453 hours. I wonder if that was Alan
fire
Jackson's
one?
one. No, Alan Jackson's where he did the world's longest line in the music video, the world's longest line dance.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, huh?
There's no way anybody lasted that long in an
No,
Alan Jackson
I'm
concert,
just saying.
and I'm an Alan Jackson fan. I'd be asleep before I got through hour 10.
I would think that there would be more than one performer.
Yeah.
I would imagine so.
All right.
Yes. All right. Guys, thank you again for tuning in. We'll look forward to your reviews and your comments after this week's podcast because I'm sure there will be lots of them. So we will catch you next week, and we are
Leave your reviews, please.
we're starting
5
to get,
stars only.
we're starting to get closer to deer season. So
Check out that focus target if you guys are curious about what I was talking about. We got him.
it's the Raised Hunting Podcast signing off. We out.
We out.